Been a little while since my last video. I have had this kind of urge lately to just ramble on, so I thought I'd hop on here and give it another try. This video is going to be a little more personal, so it's going to have a beer and relax with you guys for a little bit. Shout out to Kyoto Sushi in Rona Park. They randomly gave me this beer yesterday while I was leaving, so cheers to you. So I've been thinking a little bit lately about the fact that I'm approaching what some might consider to be midlife. I don't know if I'm going through some kind of midlife crisis right now or if it's yet to come. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a little bit of an eccentric person in general, so I've always been really afraid of the idea of a midlife crisis. Like, what form is this gonna take shape in, you know? Recently I started sinking into this pit of nostalgia. And I think a lot of us have gone through something similar during COVID. We had this period of time where we were locked up and just left alone with our thoughts, and that's a really cool thing. That's like the one really cool thing that came out of it all. The weird thing that came out of it for me personally is I ended up accumulating a bunch of weird nostalgic stuff. Behind me, you can't really see it too well, but I've got shelves full of Warhammer tabletop wargaming stuff. That's not something I was ever into before. I always kind of wanted to get into it, but just didn't have the time. I got into all these weird hobbies during the pandemic. Normally for me, filmmaking was always my passion and my hobby. So in other words, I got this sense of satisfaction by making in relation to filmmaking. And I didn't really need anything else. But during the pandemic, something snapped in my brain. And maybe it is the fact that I'm getting toward that middle-age sort of time in my life. But maybe it's just the pandemic. I have no idea. Regardless, I also got a CRT TV recently and started collecting some physical video games. All this stuff that, a grown-ass man probably shouldn't do or should do. Whatever, you make the call on that. But the reason for the tube TV, growing up, I was a kid who never had cable. My friends had cable, so I would go over to their house, spend the night, and we would watch HBO or whatever, and, like a lot of kids have done. But I never had cable, but we were a big movie household. My mom and I watched movies all the time. We had just a ton of VHS. And she introduced me to Alfred Hitchcock when I was really young, and some other wonderful filmmakers that absolutely stayed with me mentally and took hold of me and shaped who I am today. So I'm grateful to Mom for that. The thing about not having cable, but having a lot of VHS, it kind of forced you to take a lot of time with each film that you had in your possession. So there were movies that we just watched over and over and over. And to those of you who are roughly my age, you probably remember a time when we would go to the record store, pick up some music, and maybe you'd buy a tape or a CD or a record, whatever, and maybe you only liked one song on the album. You wouldn't necessarily discover this until you've already lost the money. Before the internet was readily available. So what we would do is we would sit there and we would listen to the music. We would give it our full attention, and we had the attention to give. Now I feel so much like I just don't have the attention to give half the time, more than half the time. And again, I'm speaking for myself here, but I assume I'm not alone in that. I remember listening to a song and just sitting there, closing my eyes and taking in every aspect of the composition, hearing the lyrics, hearing the instruments, thinking about who made this music and what these people had gone through at the time that they constructed this piece. And, sometimes these albums would include a little booklet with lyrics, and you would read the lyrics. And in essence, we were kind of steeping in poetry and just taking in the art. And that was really beautiful. And that was the same thing that I kind of did with a lot of the old VHS films that I had growing up. And I just rarely do that anymore. I want to do that more. I think we should all do that more. I want to try to consume media more intentionally and try to get something out of it. I saw a tweet the other day that someone had posted about turning your brain off and how a lot of the successful people that this person knew spent more time with their brain on versus off in their daily lives. And what they considered to be brain off time was like watching TV, maybe playing video games, whatever. Now, it's really a subjective thing, and, we're all different, but I try to consume media in a way where I'm like learning something. That's what I try to do. Lately, and I think again, in large part, like due to the last few years, I've been watching more shows and things like that. I say that like shows, God forbid. I've been watching more shows, streaming old sitcoms. I hated sitcoms growing up, and I hated them because they were dumb. Now they bring me comfort because they're dumb. So that would be, I would consider that brain off time. But even sitcoms, I don't want to talk too much trash because with all filmmaking, it's a collaborative effort involving so many people, and that's someone's best work. That episode of that show that I'm just besmirching right now, that's someone's best work. So, good for them. And even sitcoms, like there are smart ones, they're not all created equal. And even the dumb ones have smart moments. They do. So you can look for them, and you might have to look really hard. But I think that can be brain on activity, right? So, but movies, watching a film has always spoke to me more personally because I want to make films. I want to make feature-length movies. I don't want to make television. There's nothing wrong with television, and there's some really great shows out there that are very cinematic and movie-like. I'm obsessed with The Sopranos, for example. Always have been. But what's great about this thing behind me, I've got a CRT TV with a VCR on top of it, and the idea of popping in a VHS and sitting with that movie, as if you're in a movie theater and you have no control over when to stop or pause the thing. I watch a movie with my phone in the other room because I can't get off the damn thing. Just be aware of these weaknesses and, leave the phone out of reach, right? That's what I try to do, at least. And so I put in this movie, and it's nothing like streaming. With streaming, you're a click away from thousands of other options. So the second that your attention starts to waver, you're going to be elsewhere. That is not fair to the people that made that piece of art. I think you need to be really intentional about your decision of what you're going to watch, and then you have to kind of commit to it. That's just what I'm trying to do personally. So the long story short here is I started collecting VHS a little bit. Part of this, again, comes from being a kid, and I grew up in a family where my aunt and uncle owned a chain of video stores. Yeah. And this is before Blockbuster was like the biggest deal in the world. So in our area, I think they had a total of 11 stores at their height. In our area, they were a big deal. And I could go to these stores. This is before I drove, but I could visit these stores if some of my family took me to these stores, which they did. And I would see family members working in different stores. Maybe a little bit of nepotism there, but it helped provide for my family. And the influence it had over me personally was immense because I would spend hours and hours at these stores just looking at the artwork on these boxes. And my mom, as I mentioned, she introduced me to a ton of really wonderful stuff. So this is not me talking trash, Mom. Love ya. But she had a really tight hold over what I didn't watch in the household. I would sneak stuff all the time in the household. I would sneak stuff all the time with friends, or I'd sneak into an R-rated movie, whatever. But in relation to what we rented at the video store, she was very limiting. But nothing stopped me from looking at the artwork. So I would walk through the horror aisle. That's what I was drawn to most for whatever reason. And I would just obsess over the beautiful artwork and wonder, can you judge a book by its cover? Is the film going to be as radical as this artwork? And this is at a time when, the artwork was hand-drawn, hand-illustrated, hand-painted, whatever. There was so much care and craft behind it. Did it convey the theme of the film? Sometimes, maybe. Was it true to the content of the film? Was it honest? Or was it a false representation, as so many of the B movies that I was drawn to in terms of their cover art were? The point is, I really miss that feeling walking down these aisles and just looking at all this art. It's almost like an art gallery within itself, right? So I started picking up some VHS recently, and you got to track down these thrift stores where they still carry VHS. A lot of the thrift stores in my area don't even have VHS anymore, and the ones that do, sometimes there's just like 5 or 10 of them. A few of these places, though, have like a whole room full of these damn things, which is just awesome. So I went out and I searched, and just the act of like looking at these old tapes, looking at the sleeves, looking at the artwork brought me back. And I kind of, if I had a bigger place, one day I might build a little rental store style place. I've seen some people do that with their garage and whatnot, but I would like to have just a collection, a small collection of like some really choice picks. But in relation to film analysis and this channel, and this is why I'm here, I feel like I can actually watch a film. I can watch like a VHS and give it the attention it deserves, which is something I've been struggling with. So I wanted to kind of just comb through some of the tapes that I picked up recently and give you my thoughts on each one and why I grabbed it. Cape Fear, Martin Scorsese, obviously a remake. I have seen this. I really enjoyed it. I know it's maybe not everyone's favorite Scorsese film, but I think it's pretty terrifying. And the fact that he was able to use Bernard Herrmann's score, it always kind of spoke to me. Obviously, Taxi Driver also featured Bernard Herrmann, but this film has such a Hitchcockian vibe just because of the music alone. I just really enjoyed it, so I wanted to grab this one. And honestly, like also, one thing I've noticed while I'm looking for VHS is horror films seem to be kind of hard to find in general. So I definitely had to own this one. Next, and this is going to be in no particular order whatsoever, as you're very quickly going to notice, this is Puccini's Turandot. This is an opera that I have seen in person, and I love the music. This particular one features Placido Domingo, so I thought this would be a fun one to own. It was the Metropolitan Opera putting it on, so it's got to be good, right? And also, it's a very clean case. I even found a couple of these that were still in wrap after I bought this one. Absolute banger here, Jingle All the Way. Who doesn't love this film? Arnold Schwarzenegger being ridiculous. Sinbad. I remember seeing this one in the theater, and maybe I was a little bit old at the time to be their target audience, but oh god, Phil Hartman. I actually forgot he was in this, but he's obviously amazing. This is just a fun one, and I I am certainly not above watching a movie that's made to target kids as their primary audience, even today. So, a good movie is a good movie. Jingle all the way. I back it up. This one's actually, it's empty because it's in my cassette player, my VCR right now. 50 of the greatest cartoons, 6 full hours of color animation. I did not remember that they could get 6 hours on a tape. Someone in the comments tell me if that's ridiculous and if there are supposed to be other tapes with this, like this is a set or something. I don't know. I had it running for what seemed like hours in the background while I was doing other things, and it's got, Casper, Bugs Bunny, Felix the Cat, Woody Woodpecker, Mighty Mouse, all the cool stuff. So that's a good one. This one here, so, we've all got films that we're all like a little bit ashamed to admit that we've never seen. And I'm kind of constantly going out of my way to correct that. And I usually have a list, actually, of films that I'm embarrassed that I haven't seen. And so I try to chip away at that so I can have a better understanding as to like humanity and what's considered good. Not necessarily from a pop culture perspective, but just because it's often so relatable to the people of the time. And one of those films is Fried Green Tomatoes. I've never seen this. My wife has given me crap about never seeing this over and over and over. So I figured I would maybe buy it and maybe she'll watch it with me. I didn't get too many of these clamshell Disney films, but Sword in the Stone, I've always been a fan of this one. It's not my ultimate favorite, but I'm a fantasy boy to my core, so love the animation in this one, love the characters, just, it's beautiful. Great film. Funny story about Camelot. I've never seen this film. This is another one that I've always wanted to see. I've always been drawn to the beautiful artwork on the box. I've seen vinyl for this film constantly, and I think maybe I actually bought one just because I love the artwork, and I'm like, it's probably good. I don't even remember who did the score. Like I said, I've never seen this film, but the funny story is when I bought this, there was a note inside that like fell out, and I threw it away. I should have kept it for you guys, but here's what I believe it said. If you're going to ride my ass, you could at least pull my hair. And at first I was like, oh, this is like a weird sexual thing. Like, I should get rid of this note. It's probably dirty, right? I thought about it more and more, and what I kind of came to the conclusion of is that there was 2 cars and somebody was tailgating. And the car that was being tailgated ended up following the other car when it parked and left a note on its windshield saying, if you're going to ride my ass, you could at least pull my hair. And then the person who had been doing the tailgating thought it was hilarious and kept the note, slipped it in here, and forgot all about it. That's one theory. The other theory is someone was at the store where this was at one point in its life and slipped a bunch of weird notes in a bunch of VHS. Because that's something, when I told my wife about this note, she's like, that's something you would have done when you were a kid. And it is something I would have done. So that could have happened. Looking forward to watching this one. Again, I'm a fantasy boy. All right. This one's going to make me look like an idiot. I've never seen Lawrence of Arabia. So, got one of those massive double VHS copies here, just like Camelot that we just saw. This one, I've always wanted to see, and I hear it's just great and epic, but like it is a bit of a watch, a bit of an undertaking. So I've always tried to catch it in the theater, and for some reason I've always missed it. So I'm going to try to watch this one soon, and I look forward to it. So this one's kind of ridiculous, but I was really excited when I found it. This is Canyon Dreams, the Grand Canyon. They had a bunch of travel videos at this one particular thrift store I was at, but what made this so cool is that it features original music by Tangerine Dream. I love Tangerine Dream. So I felt like I had to have this, and I haven't popped it in yet. It's 40 minutes, so I'm expecting a good amount of music in there. It's probably all made its way to YouTube by now and Spotify and other places, but maybe I'll find something I've never heard. Canyon Dreams, Tangerine Dream, anybody? I got a sealed copy of Citizen Kane. I've obviously seen this one, say what you will about Citizen Kane. Maybe it's overrated in some ways, but at the very least, the cinematography is exquisite. It is a divine piece of art. There is so much going the right way for this film. So credit to Orson and the crew and the cast. And, looking forward to, maybe I'll crack this one open. Turner Home Entertainment, little stamp on the plastic there. Maybe I should get this graded. What do you guys think? Speaking of getting things graded, I keep joking with my friends that I am going to get this one graded, and maybe I will, but a sealed copy of Richard Simmons' Stretch into the Classics. I don't think I'm ever going to actually watch this thing, but I just think it's a beautiful display piece. It's absurd. He's got like a waterfall in the background. I think he's actually, if I read right, he's stretching to classical music. I don't know how long this is. Actually, I don't think it says, which should be illegal, but it feels extremely lightweight compared to all the other tapes I've been holding up, so he was probably ripping people off with this left and right, myself included, but I got it for $1. I got all of these for $1, except for a couple, which were maybe a couple bucks. So $1 is the right price for a VHS in this economy. I was real excited to find this one, Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. Now, this, people have asked me to do a film analysis video on Eyes Wide Shut, and it's just been done to death. There's so many people that have done it probably better than I could ever do, so I haven't done it yet, but maybe I will someday. I think I need to sharpen my skills a little bit before I dive into this thing. I've seen this film a few times, and I love it. I love every one of Kubrick's films. It is a lot. There's a lot going on, so anyways, VHS, Eyes Wide Shut. This movie is another one I was hoping I could get my wife to watch with me at some point. This is a date night movie. Dewberry Was a Lady. I don't know if anybody's seen this. Red Skelton, Lucille Ball, Gene Kelly. Kind of a cool combination of people. Very talented, very funny. So it's a good one. Dewberry Was a Lady. Now here's another one that I got, hoping I could watch with my wife. I Was a Male War Bride. I've seen this with her at one point. This is Cary Grant, and I actually don't know the female lead personally. There's a price tag from Half Price Books covering her name. Marion Marshall. Okay, that's probably who it was. Wait, Ann Sheridan, that's who it was, excuse me. They're both in this film. Anyways, I'm a Cary Grant fan. My wife is a big Cary Grant fan. And yeah, I don't remember this film, but I look forward to watching it again. Here's another classic, Kevin Costner, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Like this film and several other VHS copies I have here, it's got someone's address stamped on front, so I'm going to try to not show that to you guys. I love that there was a time when VHS were so precious that people would like say, this is the property of, kind of like they would do with old books, this book, it's like a prized possession, So, and this one, it's funny because like of all the streaming platforms that we have, and we have a bunch of them, this is not available on any of them. So this is a good argument for VHS right here. Obviously you could get DVD or Blu-ray, but that's cheating. Prince of Thieves. Here's another Disney clamshell, Sleeping Beauty, Fantasy Boy, and I love the animation. What can I say? I had to get this one even though I don't have a box for it. Maybe eventually I'll find a copy with a box. But Willow, I did not get this for $7.99. Ignore the price tag. I got it for $1, if not 50 cents. I like Willow. This is a fun one. James Stewart in Harvey. My mother is obsessed with Jimmy Stewart, and pretty much everyone from her generation, all the women at least, were. So this film, I've only seen it once, and it's been many years, so I actually can't speak too much to it, but I really enjoyed it, and I think his character was just fascinating, and maybe we'll do a video on this one sometime. This is probably the film that I've gotten so far here that I'm most excited to own on VHS. Heavy Metal. I don't know how many of you have seen Heavy Metal, but it is absolutely insane. Cool music, crazy visuals. I had the privilege of seeing this re-released in the theater at one point, and Michael Gross, who I believe is one of the executive producers for this film, was there in person, and this is before he passed away, obviously. And he spoke about this film. He had very negative things to say about Ralph Bakshi. I know that his animation is often compared to the animation in heavy metal. So that was really interesting. I'm a Bakshi fan as well, so I don't know what to make of all that. But Michael Gross also told us that he was the one who originally conceived the famous logo for Ghostbusters. So that was interesting. Anyway, if you haven't seen Heavy Metal, I highly recommend it. It's crazy. It'll blow your mind. All right. I love music. I love classical music. So I got a copy of Amadeus here. I grew up watching this film, and I was just it was a love-hate, I guess you could say, with as far as like the portrayal of Mozart, because it's just so ridiculous. And maybe that's how he was in real life. Who's to say? It's been so long. But this is a very entertaining film. Mozart's music is obviously featured heavily, and it's just gorgeous. And excited to own Amadeus. Next is another classic, Powell and Pressburger's The Red Shoes. This film, I'm sorry I keep covering the covers, The Red Shoes. And there it is. I think this is Martin Scorsese's favorite film. He talks about it all the time. Some friends, I have a friend who... his family owns some local movie theaters, so we did a private screening of The Red Shoes a couple years ago, and seeing this that way was incredible, especially when there's like almost nobody in the audience. It's just you focused on this big screen and this just beautiful Technicolor. I'm sure it was Technicolor, right? Anyways, it's beautiful, and the color is amazing. The Red Shoes. All right, so here's another one I have never actually seen, but I was really excited when I found it. Hard Boiled. So, I've seen some of this guy's films. What's his face? John Woo. Forgive me. And John Woo is kind of like, he's the one who always does the doves or the pigeons or flying, escaping the action sequence as it's happening. And so he's like iconic for this time period. And his films are actually like really intensely beautiful in a unique way. I think he does action really well. So I've always wanted to see Hard Boiled. Maybe I have seen this. I'm very forgetful, but regardless, I'm going to watch it, and I look forward to it. Hard Boiled. This is one we used to own growing up, but I never watched it. We threw away all our VHS at one point, but Stargate. Big Kurt Russell fan, who isn't? So looking forward to finally seeing Stargate and giving it the attention it deserves. Here's another one we owned that I never watched growing up. My mom had this film and she loved it. The Abyss. This is a James Cameron film for those who haven't seen it. And, I hear good things. So I'm going to actually watch this soon. All right, here's an incredible find. Fargo. Who doesn't love Fargo? The Coen brothers. Steve Buscemi in this film is just incredible. Oh, man. William H. Macy. I have this ongoing joke with my wife that William H. Macy's middle name is Hallway. I don't know how that started, but William Hallway Macy, that's what we call him. So he's great in this. And obviously, Frances McDormand, she's a standout. She's just incredible. Her performance probably makes this film. I love this movie. I'm really excited to own it on VHS. I haven't seen it in a long time. I remember being dragged to church at one point when I was a kid, which I never enjoyed. And the pastor had just watched Fargo, which was in the theaters at the time. And he was telling the congregation, I think that's what you call the audience, right? Telling the cultists, don't go see Fargo because it's a work of the devil. So I grew up like really wanting to see Fargo. And when I finally did, not that long after, I was just awestruck. I love this movie. All right, here's another fun one. The Untouchables, Brian De Palma. This one, if I'm remembering correctly, this features a score by Ennio Morricone, who I love. I love Ennio Morricone's work. So I haven't seen this in a really long time. I have seen this film, but it's been ages. I thought it'd be a fun one to revisit in VHS format. I've seen this one when I was a little kid. It's been, maybe it had just come out at the time. A League of Their Own. I hear good things. I don't remember it at all. Gina Davis, Tom Hanks, Madonna. I believe Rosie O'Donnell is in this too, if memory serves. Anyway, I'm going to revisit that one soon. Here's a good one. The Thin Man Goes Home, part of the Thin Man series. This is Myrna Loy and William Powell. And my wife is a huge fan of the Thin Man movies, so I hope to watch these with her. We both love these characters, and the dog, Asta, incredible dog actor. Quite a career, actually. Here's another from the Thin Man series, The Thin Man, aptly titled. I got a copy of True Grit here, and this is obviously the original, not the one the Coens remade. So I don't think I've ever seen the original True Grit. If I have, it was on TV at my friend's house, and I saw like bits and pieces between commercials. So I wanted to visit this and again, kind of give it the attention it deserves. Terry Gilliam's Time Bandits. My jaw dropped a little bit when I found this. This is what's so fun about hunting for VHS, is like you find these bangers that, have been mostly picked through. And it's so much more fun to go in person and to try to track these down as opposed to like going on eBay or something like that. Plus, getting this for $1 is just like such a reward within itself. I love Terry Gilliam. I grew up on Monty Python. Love John Cleese. Shelley Duvall, she's amazing. Obviously, huge fan of The Shining, goes without saying. So this film, I haven't seen it in ages, but I remember really enjoying it. Sean Connery, my mom used to tell me I was named after him, but now she denies it, so I don't really know what the deal is there. But Time Bandits. Here is a sealed copy of The Hitcher. This is a horror film that I've never seen before. I really look forward to actually watching the thing. And I am going to have to take this plastic off, which is a little disheartening. But, films were made to be watched. So that's that. All right. I got a whole bunch of these Dean Martin variety show cassettes. I'm a huge Dean Martin fan. He was always my favorite of the Rat Pack. And, I love them all. But Dean Martin, I used to watch these growing up. When YouTube started, I would track down clips of his work and just kind of have it on all the time in the background. So this is very comforting for me. I love the idea of just like sitting around and having Dean Martin on. I still watch his Christmas special that he did during the holidays. I think it's great. It's on YouTube. I recommend tracking that down. Here's another Cary Grant film, An Affair to Remember. This one's sealed. I watched this. It was one of the first films I watched with my wife when we were starting to date. So it was fun to grab this one. We'll probably watch it together at some point. Here's another one I grew up with. The African Queen with Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn. They're both incredible in this movie. I'm looking forward to seeing this again. It has been ages. I love some of the old logos that are on these old VHS, CBS Fox logo on the side there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just classic. So, The African Queen. All right, here is a copy of Charles Bronson's The Mechanic. I've never seen The Mechanic. Maybe I did see The Mechanic. Anyway, I really do enjoy Charles Bronson. I love the Death Wish series. I enjoy all of them, even the last ones, as ridiculous as they can be. I love Once Upon a Time in the West. That is my favorite Western film. It's one of my favorite films. So, big Charles Bronson fan. Looking forward to seeing The Mechanic again, I think. I don't remember. This is one of those movies that I definitely will watch. Vice Versa. This one, Judge Reinhold, he's like skateboarding, knocking over a cup of coffee in the office or on some desk at the house. I don't know. The artwork is incredible. It's so absurd. I really like him as an actor. I think he's fun. It looks like there's a young Fred Savage here as well. I've definitely never seen this one. Never heard of it. Vice Versa. Let me know in the comments if you're like a huge Vice Versa fan. I want to know if you exist in this world. Here's another one from my strange stack of absurd, obscure comedy films. This one I've actually I've heard of, and I've seen the trailer for Fraternity Vacation. So this is featuring, I don't know if you can see the artwork. It's incredible. Again, it's got this nerd kid knocking over all this stuff. He's falling in the pool. And that actor, let me track down his name here. Stephen Jeffries, that's it. He's in Fright Night. He's the guy that goes, "You're so cool, Brewster." For those of you who have seen the original Fright Night film. And this guy, he's got a really interesting career. I know that he went on to do gay adult films. So I don't think I'm mistaken that. I think that's a fact. So I've always been curious about him as a person, kind of wonder what his life is like. And I've always wanted to watch this film. So looking forward to finally tracking it down. It's got Tim Robbins in it too. So interesting. Fraternity Vacation. Here's another classic Jimmy Stewart movie. It's also got Kim Novak, Bell, Book, and Candle. This one I grew up with. I think it's got Gene Kelly in it. No, excuse me, not Gene Kelly. It's got Jack Lemmon in it as well. So he's fantastic. This is a film about witchcraft. It's like a romantic comedy about witchcraft. So I've always enjoyed it. My mom loves this film. My wife loves this film. It's just a really fun film. It's a great date night flick. If you've never seen Bell, Book, and Candle, I highly recommend it. All right. I got a confession here. I've never seen Kieslowski's color films. So I was able to get a copy of Blue here. I've always wanted to watch this, but I know it's a trilogy, right? And it's like blue and white and indigo and silver or whatever. I don't know. I don't remember. I remember blue. I think there's a white and a red. Is that right? Anyways, I've always wanted to watch these. It just seemed like a little bit of a daunting task, but I will watch this and I look forward to it very much. So this is one I was really excited to find. M. Butterfly. This is a David Cronenberg film. I don't know how many of you even know this film exists. I've never seen it. I've always wanted to see this film. I've always been curious about it. I believe this is going to be tied to the story of Madame Butterfly, which I have seen in person and love. Love the music, love the story. This says inspired by a true story. I don't remember if Madame Butterfly was based on a true story, but it could have been. You tell me. M. Butterfly. Gonna watch this soon and find out more. Here is another Stanley Kubrick film, or a Kirk Douglas film, depending on who you ask. Spartacus. It's a sealed copy, 2 tapes, massive. I've only seen this movie once. The last time I saw it, I actually watched this in high school. It's one of the only cool things we did in high school. This film, yeah, I'm looking forward to revisiting it. I wanted to revisit it anyways, but I'm going to have to break this beautiful seal in order to watch this puppy. Here's one that we all should own, Crocodile Dundee, Paul Hogan. This is not rare. I've seen several copies of this while I was out at the stores looking for VHS, but I'm a fan of Crocodile Dundee. It just seemed like one I wanted to own, and the cover artwork is just so classic, and it looks great. Here's one I grew up watching with my family, and I remember absolutely nothing about. Mannequin. I remember there's this character who says, Hollywood, in that way. That's the only thing I remember about this movie. Mannequin. Maybe it's good, maybe it's terrible. I don't remember, but I'm going to watch it and find out. Here is a clamshell film, animated film that is not done by Disney. I've never seen this. The Princess and the Goblin. I don't know if you guys have seen this one. The artwork is really cool, and it's a fantasy film, so I had to get it. My wife has seen this, and she says that it was $1 well spent. So I look forward to seeing this one finally. Here's one I'm not going to say anything about. We've all seen it. Blade Runner. If you haven't seen it, it should be on your list of films to watch, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Blade Runner. Happy to own this one. Here's another flick that I grew up with. Babes in Toyland. This is a Christmas film. It's a Disney film. It's got Annette Funicello as the lead. And Ed Wynn is this incredible toy maker. That's the guy with the amazing voice. You'll know it when you hear it. This film, I just remember it being so crazy and over the top and so saturated with color. And there's this incredible scene where they go in the forest of no return and all the trees come alive and they start singing this menacing song. It's pretty dark. This is one of those movies where it's like, it's definitely a kid's film. It's just of a different time. So things would get nightmarish, and I love that. I was really excited when I found this, The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. I love Ray Harryhausen, who doesn't. I've already mentioned several times I love fantasy, so I love seeing his big monsters come to life. But the best part was that he used stop motion animation, and I love stop motion. I've dabbled in it myself. He has inspired everybody who's ever done anything stop motion related. You can quote me on that. The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. This is a Francois Truffaut film, Mississippi Mermaid. I've actually never seen this one, but I'm always looking for a new Truffaut flick to dive into. New to me, at least, because I'm sleeping on stuff. This has got Jean-Paul Belmondo in it, and I am a fan of his work. So I was excited to find this one. Let me know in the comments if you've seen Mississippi Mermaid and if it is worthwhile. I'm sure it is. All right, this is another one that I just was so thrilled to find. I don't know if I'm going to be able to open this because this is special for me. The Wicker Man is one of my favorite films, like of all time. It's in the top 10. Might be in the top 5. Probably is. I got a sealed copy of The Wicker Man. It's clean. It's beautiful. Like this movie is so haunting and tremendous. And it is a slow burn, but the ending makes it all worthwhile. This is one of those films where you have to put the phone in the other room and turn off all distractions and immerse yourself. So it's the perfect film to watch on VHS. The music is so scary and haunting and sticks with you. And it's beautiful at the same time. This is a beautiful film. The Wicker Man, Christopher Lee. I can't recommend this enough. Watch The Wicker Man if you've never seen it. And of course, I mean the original. All right, here's another one I've never seen that I should have seen a long time ago, Fatal Attraction. So I'm going to finally dive into Fatal Attraction. We'll see what it's all about. Okay, Francis Ford Coppola time, Dracula. This is so stupid. I've never seen this movie. We live not super far away from Francis Ford Coppola's big restaurant, and he's got some props on display. It's basically a museum when you walk in. And so I've seen Gary Oldman's Dracula, his Vlad the Impaler suit of armor that he wears in this film. So I've seen that in person. So I've got no excuse. I need to watch this finally. So I was thrilled to find it. I'm going to dive in real soon. Here is a Doris Day film. My wife and I really love Doris Day. Calamity Jane. So this is a classic, and we're going to watch this one together. Here is another fun fantasy film. This is the black sheep of the Disney animated catalog, The Black Cauldron, everybody. If you don't know about The Black Cauldron, you got to check it out. I think it's probably my favorite Disney animated film. Don't hold me to that, but it's a really good film. It's very different than most Disney movies, so that's why they don't talk about it often. But the animation is incredible. It's just really special, and this is when I first got this idea in my head that I was going to buy some VHS tapes. The Black Cauldron was one of the first ones I was after. So one of the fun things about going to the video store back in the day was finding movies you'd never heard of. And sometimes indie films would make their way into the store. And it looks like this is one of those. Bone Shakers? I've never heard of Bone Shakers, but living on the streets can be deadly. Bone Shakers. This is one I just I needed to see it for myself. Listen to this. Fast action gunplay and adventure kicks off when Nathan, buffed action hunk December Williams of Flubber, and his freewheeling crew of San Francisco bicycle messengers crash a secret mob scheme to kidnap homeless and harvest their organs for sale when his sexy girlfriend, Donnie, Stars model, Tao Vu, is abducted and penned up with some of their fellow street people waiting to be butchered. Only Nathan can stop the slaughter. First, he must punch through a gauntlet of brutal gangsters, corrupt cops, and uncivil servants, led by ruthless master criminal Nico, Michael Quijano of HBO's Maximum Force. When Nathan and Nico face off, bullets, fists, and feet fly in a ultimate martial arts showdown. I've dedicated more time to Bone Shakers than any of the other tapes I've covered so far, and I just think it deserves it because nobody's heard of this thing. All right, I've never seen The Edge, and A friend has recommended it to me, and, I've heard nothing but good things. I know there's like a really cool scene with a bear. Here's another one for the comedy collection, My Cousin Vinny. My wife always tells me this story, how she used to watch this when she was a kid. Like, her family grew up watching My Cousin Vinny, and she said, I think she said fuck. She said a swear word at one point, and it was the first time I think she had ever really been caught saying a swear word, and she got in trouble because of My Cousin Vinny. She blames My Cousin Vinny to this day, but she still loves it because it's a classic. Check out this beautiful copy of Alien I got. Now, obviously, it's seen better days, but the artwork of this one with, again, that old CBS Fox logo on there, it's just so cool. So, excited to rewatching Alien on VHS. I also have this on Laserdisc for some reason. This is one of those ones that I was pretty stoked when I saw. Basic How-To Halloween Makeups, Volume 2. This says that it includes makeup coverage on The Mummy, The Old Man, Phantom, Creature, Gargoyle, Robot, Swamp Creature, Evil Clown, Dracula, and Ghastly Ghoul. So this is one of those ones I'm going to pop in around Halloween time and just love hearing it on in the background. Can't wait. Here is another one I've never heard of, but it looked like some just classic cheese. Ground Zero. If you've seen this one, let me know. Something about nuclear testing. I don't know. We'll see. It's a suspense film. Ground Zero. Got one of the masters here. PTA's Magnolia. Love Magnolia. I've actually only seen Magnolia once, so this will be a fun one. Here's another one that I had to get. A Charlie Brown Christmas. This is one of those ones that I think you have to have Apple TV to watch right now. It was pulled from all the streaming services a couple years ago, and people were irate. This is actually the old copy that they used to give away, I think, for free when you got gas at Shell. I had one of these growing up, and it was also from the Shell gas station. So, classic. Now, I'm not a big Trekkie. I never have been, and it's my loss. I am not judging anyone. I just never got into it. I would like to get into it at some point. So I got Star Trek The Motion Picture. This is like an extended version of what I believe is already a long movie. So this should be fun. This is another movie that I watched with my wife when we were dating. Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. This is a musical. This is often a stage production. This is just so much fun. It's so ridiculous and over the top. I feel like I've said ridiculous and over the top so many times throughout this video, but this is one of those. Here is another John Woo film that I don't think I've ever seen, Hard Target with Van Damme. I actually love Jean-Claude Van Damme films. As far as that era of action movies, he is probably my favorite movie star. Jean-Claude Van Damme, he's just like so physically together. Like what he does is an art. He's really good at what he does. So Hard Target, I've heard good things about this one. I'm looking forward to watching it. Here is another fun one. I've seen part of this on TV once years ago. Chuck Norris, Code of Silence. I have a soft spot for Chuck Norris. What can I say? Cleopatra, Elizabeth Taylor, Rex Harrison, Richard Burton. I don't know how many of you have seen this. It's an epic film. I think it was a box office bomb because of the amount of money they had to spend on it. Don't quote me on that. But this is one of the films that I watched when I first started dating my wife. She came over and she left it up to me to pick a movie for us to watch. And she didn't tell me what she liked or didn't like, so I picked The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I scared the hell out of her. So then she picked and we watched Cleopatra. So found a sealed copy of this, had to get it. All right. Russell Goldie Hawn flick, Overboard. Who does not love those two when they're together? They're amazing, and Overboard is a hilarious, fun movie. I know there's like 25 of these movies, but I wanted to own the original Land Before Time because I have a lot of fond memories watching it over and over when I was a kid. I know when they find the, what is it called? The star leaf. There's like this leaf. I remember like when I was a little kid, I remember eating lettuce and pretending that I was a dinosaur eating one of those leaves. So, good memories. The Land Before Time, everybody. I was really excited to find a John Waters film Crybaby, maybe not his ultimate film, but I did watch this over and over in high school, and I loved the music. It was mostly the music that I loved. It's a good movie, don't get me wrong, but the music is fantastic. It's not my favorite John Waters film. It's probably one of the least John Waters films, maybe second only to Hairspray, but it's still really fun, so happy to have Crybaby. I got a copy of From Dusk Till Dawn 2, which I hear is not a great film, but it's got Danny Trejo in it, and I met him, and he really was a nice guy as far as I could tell. So I'll give this one a try. Excited to find it. Captain Ron. I've got a Sidney Poitier flick here. They call me Mr. Tibbs. I've never seen this film. I hear it referenced all the time. The artwork is really cool and striking. So I was pretty excited to find this one, and it's in good shape, and I look forward to watching it. They call me Mr. Tibbs. Here is another Charles Bronson film that I've never had the pleasure of seeing. Assassination. I don't know anything about this. He's got a bazooka down at the bottom there, and he's firing it at a helicopter, I believe. It looks amazing. I'm sold. Assassination. Here's a witch hunt movie. A witch hunt movie. Here is a movie with Dennis Hopper. A Dennis Hopper movie called Witch Hunt. I have never heard of this movie. I wanted to watch as many movies that I've never heard of as possible, as long as they've got like some redeeming quality. And Dennis Hopper, he's a redeeming quality. So yeah, we'll give this one a try. Whoa, it's actually a Paul Schrader film. This is a movie I picked up to watch with my wife, The Egg and I. I know nothing about this movie except it's got Fred MacMurray, and Fred MacMurray is really cool. This is one of those classics that I think she was just after for a long time and couldn't find it anywhere. So I had to pick up The Egg and I. There are a few things more nostalgic for me than the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I got a copy here of Super Rocksteady and Mighty Bebop. No artwork for this one, unfortunately, but this will be fun to have on the old tube. Here is a film that I'm not familiar with. I already got a copy of the live-action Camelot, and now here's an animated film called Camelot, The Legend. This is one of those films that's clearly trying to be a Disney movie, even though it's not a Disney movie. That's like such a terrible, degrading thing to say. Excuse me, people who worked on Camelot, The Legend. This might be amazing. I look forward to seeing it. Good Times Entertainment. Thank you for making Camelot, The Legend. All right, here is Reversal of Fortune. This is another one of those films that I've never heard of that I just wanted to see. I was drawn in by the crazy artwork on the cover and the fact that it's got Glenn Close, Jeremy Irons, like pretty good actors. So yeah, Reversal of Fortune. And apparently Jeremy Irons won an Academy Award for this film. So we're going to check it out. All right, here is another film with Sidney Poitier, To Sir with Love. Is the name of this one. I've never seen this one. I don't know anything about it. I'm actually pretty ignorant when it comes to Sidney's career. I've seen a few of his films, but I've never seen this one, and so I look forward to educating myself and watching To Sir with Love. Here's another one I haven't seen. You see a trend here? Mr. and Mrs. Bridge. Now this one, it says it's a perfect film on the cover, so I had to get it, right? It's starring Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. I love Paul Newman. Love his lemonade. Got an old Video Droid sticker on there. Shout out to Video Droid. Video Droid was a incredible small chain of video stores that carried a ton of art house films. I dated a girl that worked at Video Droid for a while, and so I used to hang out in Video Droid. Like, I would meet her there while she was working a closing shift, and I would bring in food, and we would just watch movies and eat and just chill, and it was kind of fun. Like, it brought me back to that experience that I had when I was a kid hanging out at the video store that my aunt and uncle owned. So, yeah, shout out to Video Droid, Mr. and Mrs. Bridge. I've only seen this one once, and I think I rented this on VHS, actually, like years ago, obviously. The Four Rooms. This is a fun one for those who haven't heard of it. It's like an ensemble cast in like episodic style, so there's 4 different stories that are taking place within 4 rooms of a hotel. And I believe Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez each directed one of the little bits. It's got Tim Roth in it, who is amazing. He's a bellboy there, and Yeah, it is a wicked romp on the wild side, The Four Rooms. Here is another Doris Day flick, Send Me No Flowers. Not a big Rock Hudson fan, but I do really like Doris Day, as we've already covered, and this one is a jam. I got a copy here of Prizzy's Honor. And this is a Jack Nicholson, Kathleen Turner flick. I think I maybe caught this on TV when I was young. I remember nothing about it if I've seen it at all. So happy to dive in and check out Prizzy's Honor. Let me know if you think it's amazing. I'm curious. This is another one that I had never heard of, but it just looked so cool. And I love the minimalist approach to the cover. Blue City. What a great title, too. Blue City. Blue City is a small Florida town that's up to its neck in the big city graft and corruption. I think like that's enough for me. It could be terrible, but we'll find out. It's got Judd Nelson in it. I mean, he's iconic for that time, and I'm kind of digging for hidden gems here, right? So Blue City, maybe it's great. This is another one I picked up so I could watch it with my wife. She really likes this one. It's a kid's film, I would say, family film. The Three Lives of Thomasina. This is another one that she put on when we first started dating. Kind of fell asleep to it at one point. So I don't remember the film too much, but I think the cat is a ghost. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's a spooky film. Anyway, one of those, it must have been Buena Vista, right? It's Disney, but I think it was originally Buena Vista. Yeah, Buena Vista. They did so many cool live action films back then. Buena Vista, they were the best. It was hard to imagine a VHS collection without Wall Street, so got Wall Street. This one is cool. The Toxic Avenger Part 2. Still in plastic, not sealed, but still in shrink. Dude, to find a Troma film on VHS is it's a grail piece, right? I would love to find Toxic Avenger Part 1. Long live Toxie, baby. During my VHS hunt, I found so many copies of Fievel Goes West, An American Tale, but I got a sealed one, so hey. Yet another Doris Day Cary Grant flick, That Touch of Mink. Grew up watching this one with my mom. Don't remember it, but I'm sure I'll watch it with my wife, and we'll have fun. Last one so far. Throw Mama from the Train. This is one of those ones, this is a personal film for me because I have a lot of memories watching this thing. So Danny DeVito, Billy Crystal star in this film, and this is Mama, it says. It's got that wonderful actress from The Goonies. What's her name? Kim Greist? Is that Anne Ramsey? I'm pretty sure it's Anne Ramsey. She's phenomenal. Rest in peace. She truly was so fun to watch. And this movie... So this is a spoof, for those who don't know, on the Alfred Hitchcock film Strangers on a Train. I watched this film before Strangers on a Train. I grew up on Hitchcock, but I happened to never see Strangers on a Train for quite a long time, and I watched this movie several times, not knowing that it was related to anything else. So I just thought it was a really weird, scary, strange, disturbing movie. And it's a comedy, it's a dark comedy, but I never really knew what it was. Is this movie a horror film? Is it a comedy? What is it? And as a kid, I just remember being this is incredible. It's disturbing. It's just so strange. And it makes no sense. And I loved that it had it wasn't following any of the rules. But then I found out it was a spoof, and it almost became less cool because it was just this weird, surreal thing before. Still super cool that it's a spoof of Strangers on a Train. If you haven't seen Strangers on a Train, it is an incredible film, and I do recommend starting with Strangers on a Train before you see Throw Mama from the Train. But Throw Mama from the Train is amazing. I think they were even going to do a sequel for this at one point, which would have been just crazy. But this is a fun one, and I'm happy to have it here. So those are the VHS that I picked up just on my first outings. I went out a couple times and I scooped those up. I did not intend to get this big of a pile, but I got sucked into the rabbit hole just reminiscing, right? Anyways, what I figure I'll do is I'll pick one of these films to watch and try to get back into what I was doing before, the film analysis videos, where I at the very least, I don't want to marry to calling it film analysis, but it'll be my observations, right? I want to watch these films and share with you my thoughts, because I do have a lot to say about all of these once I start watching them. I know that I will. I'm definitely not going to do a video on each one of these videos, but if you have, if any of these videos that I did pick up, if any of these films jump out at you and you want to see a deep dive on those, please let me know in the comments. I will tell you, I've already made up my mind what my first one is going to be. All right. The Abyss. This is the first film that I'm going to watch out of all of these, and I'll do a little write-up and I'll make a video about it. I'll share with you my observations on this movie, having watched it never before until now. So I'm going to dive into this thing, and hopefully I'll return real soon with some fun observations to share on The Abyss. Thank you for sticking with me here. And I also really want to say to the people that subscribed to my YouTube channel so many years ago, like when I made a couple of videos on Nicholas Winding Refn's film Bronson, if you're still here, you're the best. You're just so cool. So please stick around. I've got more coming. As always, hit me up in the comments. Tell me what films I'm sleeping on and what movies I should be diving into. And I'm going to try to get back to it. I'm not committing to like a timeline, but I'm going to try to give you guys more content. And I want to create a community with you. I want to watch films intentionally. I want to, hence the VHS, the thesis to all this, right? Like I want to get back to paying attention when I take in art that other people pour their lives into, As I said before, there are no bad films because it's someone's best work. When you have that many people working on a project, like somebody really loved that thing. It was a passion project for someone, right? It had to have been. Otherwise, it wouldn't have gotten made. So I try to take that in and consider that when I watch a movie and just respect the craft, So thank you for being here. We'll talk real soon. Bye.